Hello, trauma warriors. I'm Janae with Defeating Childhood Trauma, and welcome to round 3 of the Fear Circuit, the Binge-Cut. All 7 episodes in one continuous flow. This is the round where Complex-PTSD gets engineered. Round 1 showed the body reacting before the mind. Round 2 showed the brain finally catching up. But round 3, this is where the system breaks and your brain learns one thing: the danger never ends. This is the round that explains why you couldn't calm down, why you couldn't trust your body, why you couldn't think clearly, and why you didn't just get over it. This is the anatomy of chronic fear, the circuitry that literally forges us in trauma. Let's break it down.
You just have to stop overreacting. Calm down and think positive.
Wow, round 3 hasn't even started, and Captain Useless already came in hot with a motivational speech straight from Hades itself. Welcome to round 3, where survival mode sets up a home office, and Captain Useless, he's not invited to the staff meeting. Newsflash: if your fear circuit's been running in a loop for years, you can't just think positive. Your brain literally remodeled itself to live in survival mode. And good news, we finally have a whiteboard that actually fits the whole frame. Perfect timing, because round 3 is when the fear circuit stops visiting and moves in full time. So, quick recap. Round 1, the body fired first. Round 2, the mind caught on. And then round 3, the whole system gets comfy in chaos. Now let's meet the new squad joining us in round 3. Dynorphins, the numb-it-all chemical that shuts down pain and joy. Oxytocin, the bonding glue now bonding to danger. And the hippocampus, poor thing, can't tell past from present anymore. The watchtower is disconnected. The Bermuda Triangle, dopamine, GABA, and glutamate. Chaos, calm, and crash. And the DRN, serotonin's factory that can go full Breaking Bad under chronic stress. This round is the biology of burnout, where the brain stops trying to escape fear and learns to live in it. If you've ever said, "I don't know how to relax," that's because all of this has been living off of your nervous system rent-free. Tomorrow, we'll start right here. Dynorphins enter the chat. They mean well, but they're the reason numb can start to feel safe.
There's so much I want to do with my life, but everywhere I look, I see disasters waiting to happen if I even try.
That right there is the perfect summary of dopamine buried under dynorphin dominance. Previously in round 2, Substance P entered the chat and made everything even worse. Now in round 3, dynorphins arrived to help. Yay! Except there's a catch. Dynorphins are the body's emotional painkillers. They numb the chaos that Substance P stirred up, but they numb your pain and pleasure. Then they go tattletale to the hippocampus, your brain's memory storage. Dynorphins are the chemical that say, "Don't do that, remember consequences." And when trauma is long-term, dynorphins get prioritized. They take the front seat in all your chemistry. That's when the hippocampus floods with negative memory bias. It remembers every mistake, every humiliation, every threat. And good memories? No, those get redacted. That means your brain learned to predict consequences everywhere. You see risk instead of reward, danger instead of opportunity.
So that's why I keep expecting something bad to happen, even when it's not.
Exactly, because dynorphins are dopamine's counterweight, like a seesaw. As dynorphins rise, dopamine tanks, and they crash your motivation before you can even stand up. That's why survivors perceive mountains out of risk and molehills out of rewards. Think about it.
So it's like having Jiminy Cricket as your life coach, except he's paranoid, exhausted, and maybe addicted to chaos. So I'm not lazy, I'm just chemically cautious.
Correct. The body literally decided it's safer to do nothing than to risk pain again. That's the genius and the tragedy of dynorphin dominance. Tomorrow, we'll see how this numbing mess tangles with oxytocin. Because when the bonding chemical meets chronic fear, the results are not romantic.
Everyone says that love heals everything, but mine feels broken. How do I get my oxytocin back?
I get that question from time to time, and believe me, I wish it were that simple. You see, oxytocin isn't the fairy godmother of bonding, it's more like double sided tape. It sticks to whatever you were trained to bond with, even if that thing was chaos. Here's where things get messy. Oxytocin is right here, connected to everything. And this dotted line, that's cortisol, stress chemistry influencing your attachment chemistry. So when stress runs high, oxytocin tries to bond to whatever can bring it relief, even if it's the same person or pattern that caused the stress. And over here, dynorphins, the emotional painkillers, are still numbing this system and dragging oxytocin into their orbit. That's why connection can start to feel like obligation. Together, they report straight to the hippocampus, your brain's memory librarian, basically filing love and fear in the same folder.
So that's how I learned to be attracted to unsafe people.
Yes, oxytocin's bonding code got rewritten by fear. You're bonded to control, not comfort. So when you feel some distance, oxytocin doesn't whisper, I miss you. It panics, like, fix it before you lose them. And see this dotted arrow from the DRN, serotonin's neighborhood, to oxytocin? That's the potential for balance. When calm, consistency, and truth enter the chat, serotonin supports oxytocin in reconnecting to safety. So yes, oxytocin can relearn, but it's not about chasing connection. It's about retraining the chemistry, repairing the bond between safety and peace. Tomorrow, we'll check in with the hippocampus because while oxytocin is trying to feel safe again, the memory center is rewriting what safety even means.
Wait a minute. Does this mean my brain's been running the same group chat in circles all this time? Yeah, and no one's leaving the chat.
This is the long-term trauma loop.
and it's been open tabbing in the background for years. In the last 2 episodes, we saw dynorphins numb the pain and oxytocin confuse the bond, and both hijack the hippocampus from way down here. But up here in this region, the thalamus, ACC, insula, and PCC are constantly communicating back with the hippocampus. Let's walk this loop. The hippocampus remembers danger and it sends that information to the thalamus, your sensory hub. Then the thalamus sends it to the ACC, your worry manager. Then the ACC pings the insula, who translates that worry into body sensations. Then it alerts the PCC, your compass and narrator. Then the PCC ships that information right back to the hippocampus, and the cycle continues. The result? Hypervigilance, emotional exhaustion, and zero sense of closure. The real tragedy? This loop has been running without a boss. Normally, the watchtower, the CEO of perspective, steps in to say, actually, we're safe now. When the system's in panic mode, the CEO is locked out of the building. All resources get rerouted to survival because logic doesn't matter when the body thinks it's in a war zone.
So the watchtower's on unpaid leave while the interns run the place?
And apparently the interns are all hopped up on cortisol and coffee.
But here's the twist. It's not just the regions doing this. There's even more chemistry behind the chaos. Tomorrow, we'll head into the Bermuda Triangle, where dopamine, GABA, and glutamate collide. Because when glutamate hijacks the thalamus, this loop does more than just repeat. It amplifies. Welcome to the Bermuda Triangle, where dopamine and GABA go missing as glutamate takes over. The wreck looks something like this. Glutamate, the brain's gas pedal, keeps flooring it. It's supposed to hand over control to GABA, the brakes. But GABA is exhausted from chronic fear and barely presses the pedal. Meanwhile, dopamine, who's usually in charge of motivation and reward, is stuck in the back seat. And the trio looks something like this. Glutamate, I told you, stop yelling at dopamine. My receptors can't take this noise.
But Granny GABA, I can't stop yelling! Hey, dopamine! The brain needs stimulation! Emergency! Call me when there's a reward worth showing up for.
Granny GABA is supposed to keep everyone calm. Glutamate is supposed to keep everyone alert. And dopamine is supposed to keep everyone motivated. But in chronic fear, glutamate runs unchecked. It overstimulates the thalamus, the sensory relay hub, and makes everything feel louder, sharper, and more urgent. That hijacks this whole fear loop we mapped yesterday. Every tiny problem feels like an emergency because the excitatory signals never shut off. The system forgets how to rest and how to look forward. Motivation tanks because dopamine is also being buried under the double D, dynorphin dominance, the chemical that says, don't do that, or I'll tell the hippocampus on you. So relaxation, off the menu. The body keeps running sprints off emotional fumes.
If I stop yelling, we'll die!
You've been saying that since the Reagan administration.
Well, you two are the reason I can't enjoy anything.
When glutamate becomes the loudest voice in the room, it drains dopamine and silences GABA. That's the chemical triangle that keeps survivors stuck in chronic tension. Tomorrow, we'll meet the DRN, the serotonin factory, and see what happens when inflammation hijacks the whole system. Oh, someone tell the DRN to stop brewing battery acid in my teapot.
Too late, Granny GABA. He just short-circuited the hippocampus again.
Wait, I thought serotonin was supposed to make you happy. Why does mine feel like it's plotting something? Welcome to chronic survival mode, where even serotonin forgets it's supposed to help. This little cluster here is in your brainstem, and this is the DRN, dorsal raphe nucleus. It's your serotonin factory. When life's calm, it brews emotional balance. But in long-term fear, the factory gets hijacked. Instead of producing serotonin, it manufactures stress chemistry. The DRN's job is to convert the tryptophan foods that we eat into serotonin. But in chronic stress, the body reroutes that same tryptophan down the wrong assembly line. It becomes quinolinic acid instead. So instead of calm, you get chemical corrosion. Your tryptophan becomes fuel for the fire. So my calm chemical turned into an arsonist? Exactly. Serotonin's evil twin burning down the spa it used to run. That toxic shift floods the fear loop. The hippocampus, thalamus, PCC, insula, and ACC. It even hits the amygdala. That's when you get emotion dysregulation, intrusive thoughts, insomnia, and even fibromyalgia like pain, because inflammation has hijacked the whole calm circuit. But the DRN isn't evil, it's exhausted. It's been trying to protect you by working overtime, but protection without rest becomes poison. That's how chronic trauma turns peace chemistry into survival chemistry. Tomorrow, we'll talk about what happens when the whole system tries to balance the damage and why the body starts showing symptoms of what the doctors label mystery illnesses. And spoiler alert, once again, it is all Substance P's fault. Remember yesterday when the DRN started cranking out neurotoxins that cause inflammation? Well, today, Substance P re enters the chat to remind you of that inflammation. Substance P's job is to send pain messages to the brain. In normal doses, it's helpful. It alerts you when there's something wrong. But in chronic fear mode, Substance P doesn't clock out. It keeps yelling, fire, down pain pathways that, thanks to ongoing trauma, have been sensitized, not desensitized, which is why pain feels so big and so real, even without injury.
Survivor scans always look normal, so there's nothing wrong. You, Janae, have just been reading too much online.
Actually, Captain Useless, I did find it online in medical journals. You're looking for bruises when the fire's in the wiring. Substance P doesn't show up on x-rays, but it sure shows up in pain. Sorry your degree didn't cover that chapter.
Google Substance P.
If you've been following this round, you know that dynorphins are the first to enter the chat once fear becomes ongoing. They numb the emotional pain, but physical pain, not its department. That's endorphins' job. And they're not even pictured on this map for a reason, because endorphins are more like, I'm here for the joy and laughter. Nuh-uh. I don't do no overtime, darling. Endorphins handle emergencies, not endurance. In chronic stress, substance P turns its pain message into a gossip chain. It recruits inflammation, invites cortisol to the pity party, and convinces your nerves that pain equals safety. That's why so many trauma survivors develop pain with no visible cause. Backaches, jaw tension, gut issues, even fibromyalgia like flares. Substance P's motto, if I hurt you, at least you'll listen. It's the drama queen of your nervous system, and it loves attention. Tomorrow, we enter the final round of the fear circuit, from fear to freedom, where these chemicals finally stop running the show. And that was round 3, the chronic fear loop that builds complex PTSD, one survival adaptation at a time. So if you've ever wondered, was it really that bad? Your science answers loud and clear. Yes, it was that bad and worse. Your hippocampus lost sequence. Thalamus stayed on high alert. Your ACC and Insula stayed hijacked. Your PCC kept replaying familiar danger. Your watchtower couldn't turn the alarm off. And your chemicals did everything they could to keep you alive. This wasn't weakness. This wasn't overreacting. This was survival intelligence running without a break. Next step is round 4, the fear to freedom round. What happens when you finally get away, and why healing hurts before it helps. Forged in trauma, rising as warriors.